The Galactic Council's emergency beacon flared red across 3 sectors, and Kor, Supreme Commander of the Vexian Imperial Guard, responded with the full weight of his authority. His ship materialized above the diplomatic station within minutes, weapons primed, shields at maximum. Nothing threatened Council property on his watch. Nothing. "Commander?" His second officer's voice crackled through the comm, trembling with an emotion Kor couldn't identify. The situation is unusual." Kor's 4 eyes narrowed. In his 2 centuries of service, unusual had meant plasma storms, dimensional rifts, and once, a sentient black hole. He could handle unusual. He materialized in the station's central garden with his elite guard. 12 of the finest Vexian warriors, each standing 9 feet tall, their ceremonial helmets gleaming with integrated tactical displays worth more than small starships. The helmets were sacred, passed down through generations, embedded with the consciousness fragments of honored ancestors. What he found made his scales ripple with confusion. A human sat cross-legged on a bench, surrounded by flowering xenobotanical specimens, reading something on a primitive tablet. She looked up as Kor's battalion materialized, her expression one of mild interest rather than the appropriate terror. "Oh good, you're here," she said, standing and brushing off her pants. "I'm Lyra, the new human liaison. You must be Commander Kor." "Where?" Kor growled, his voice resonating through his chest cavity in a frequency designed to induce fear. "Is the emergency? Who dares threaten Council property?" Lyra pointed toward a cluster of crystal trees. "Your helmets are over there." Well, most of them. Kor's training had prepared him for countless scenarios. Helmet theft was not among them. "Explain. Now." His hand moved to his plasma weapon. "The Cubs took them," Lyra said simply, as if this clarified everything. "They'll return them when they're done playing." Cubs. Playing. With sacred Vexian warrior helms. Kor's mind struggled to process the statement. He signaled his guards to spread out and investigate. They moved with predatory grace toward the crystal trees, their movements synchronized, their training evident in every step. Then the sounds began. High-pitched chirping. Playful growls. And was that giggling? Kor followed his guards, his massive form moving through the garden. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his military career. 6 creatures, small, fuzzy, with oversized eyes and tiny paws, were playing with his guards' helmets. They rolled them like balls, wore them as caves to hide in, and one particularly bold cub had figured out how to activate the heads-up display and was batting at the holographic projections with evident delight. "What?" Kor breathed. "Are those things?" "Valerian cloud cubs," Lyra said, having followed him. She crouched down, smiling as one of the cubs bounded over, dragging a helmet twice its size. "They're endangered. The Council is using the station as a temporary sanctuary, while their homeworld's atmosphere stabilizes. They're about 4 months old." One of Kor's guards reached for his helmet. The cub wearing it squeaked in alarm and scrambled backward, tripping over the oversized headgear and rolling into a fluffy ball of panic and confusion. "Stop," Lyra said firmly. To Kor's amazement, his warrior actually stopped. "You'll scare them," Lyra continued, walking forward slowly. She made a series of soft clicking sounds with her tongue. The cub's ears perked up. She sat down on the ground, making herself smaller, less threatening. "They're babies. They don't understand that they took something important. They just found interesting toys." "Those are not toys," Kor rumbled. "Those are sacred artifacts of the Vexian people, containing the consciousness fragments of my ancestors worth..." "Priceless, yes, I read the brief," Lyra interrupted. "Which is why we're going to wait for them to finish playing and give them back voluntarily. Rather than traumatizing 6 endangered babies and potentially damaging your helmets in the process of forcibly retrieving them." Kor's combat computer ran probability matrices. Forcible retrieval. 73% chance of helmet damage, 94% chance of cub injury, 100% chance of diplomatic incident. The human's approach. Unknown variables, unprecedented situation, no tactical data available. "This is absurd," Kor declared. "I am Supreme Commander of..." A cub waddled up to his foot and looked up at him with eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. It made a small inquisitive sound. Kor froze. "He wants you to sit down," Lyra said. "You're scary when you're looming." No one had ever called Kor scary in a critical way. Scary was his job. Scary was good. But the small creature did seem distressed by his height. Against every instinct, against 2 centuries of military protocol, Kor sat. The cub immediately climbed onto his lap, circled twice, and settled down with a contented purr. "What is happening?" Kor said flatly. "You're making a new friend," Lyra replied. She had 3 cubs around her now, and was gently retrieving helmets as the cubs brought them to her, trading them for what appeared to be bioluminescent toys from her pack. "Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We call it animal husbandry, but really it's just understanding that not every problem requires force." Over the next hour, Lyra and the cubs negotiated the return of all 12 helmets. She traded toys, gave gentle scritches behind fuzzy ears, and spoke in that soft, melodic way humans had. The cubs, sensing they'd found someone who understood them, responded with trust. Kor's guards stood in formation, fully armed warriors watching a human trade trinkets with babies for priceless artifacts. The cub in Kor's lap had fallen asleep, its small body warm against his combat armor. "Your tactics are effective," Kor admitted grudgingly as Lyra handed him the last helmet, carefully cleaned of cub drool. "But highly unconventional," Lyra smiled. "Commander, humans have survived on a death world for millions of years. We've learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is be gentle. Sometimes the bravest thing is to sit down and wait." She looked at the sleeping cub on his lap. "And sometimes the most powerful warriors understand that protecting the small things is what makes you truly strong." Kor looked down at the tiny creature, sleeping trustingly against armor designed to withstand plasma fire. Something in his chest, a place he'd thought was only for battle rage and warrior pride, felt strangely warm. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "the council was wise to assign a human liaison." "Perhaps," Lyra agreed. They were. As Kor's ship departed hours later, helmets safely secured and cubs peacefully napping in their sanctuary, Kor found himself composing a new report for the council. It began. Recommendation: all diplomatic stations with non-combatant species should include human personnel. Their tactical approach to non-hostile situations proves unexpectedly effective. He paused, then added, "Also request information on appropriate toys for Valerian cloud cubs. For security purposes,